That's the thumbs up. Ladies and gents, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us for tonight's Fans Forum. Thank you everyone at home who's watching along as well. It's a very cold night out there, so I don't blame you for staying behind. My name is Matt Cecil, and just to quickly introduce you to the panel, you should recognise the five faces in front of me, of you all, but if you don't, we have our interim chairman and chief football officer, Dan Rice, Mr. Michael Duff, who I believe many of you will have been rather impressed with the results, certainly since Michael came on board a couple of months ago. Jeremy Sauer, sat in the middle, is the academy director. And again, we've heard some fantastic news and results and some really impressive performances from the academy and the under-18s since they've really kicked into gear this summer. Tim Davies is our Chief Financial Officer, so Tim's been with us now for just over a year and really oversees the running of the business side of the operation. And at the end of the line, Tom Stockwell, who's our Director of Football Strategy and Data Intelligence. So Tom came on board in the spring and has been a real driving force in the club's use of data, both in the performance side and on recruitment as well. So lots to hear from, loads of questions for you to pose, and I've got some of my own as well. So we'll get things underway. And Dan, I am going to start with you, because there has been plenty to discuss. We sat here almost a year ago today, actually. It was one day out. And I think when we look back at that year, and I'm going to start on the football front, obviously last year, playoff semi-final, club's record points tally in League One, and this year a lot of kind of transition, quite a lot of turbulence, I guess, over the summer, but where we are now feels like we're on a really good trajectory. How do you kind of view it from your role as Chief Football Officer, the position that we're in now on the football front?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Thanks, everyone, for attending and everyone online as well. So, yeah, obviously there's a lot to unpick from all of that. You know, sitting here a year ago, there was lots of things that we looked towards, and the vision for the football club was in a place where we were building towards something that was really exciting. And you know, we can sit here and say that the season was super successful last year, but ultimately we all sat here and know that we didn't get it across the line, which we understand. I think the season we had last year was still successful, as you said. The record points total that we landed on is a great achievement for the football club. You know, the summer's been a busy one for lots of really positive reasons, and you know, and if you look at it now, we're you know, obviously with Michael coming to the building and lots of things around the football club, we're heading in a really good place, like you say. So.
And you've touched on it, it was a really busy summer, a lot of recruitment into it, a lot of new names for the fans to get to know, but as well as that, 26 new names in the academy as well. Fantastic to see the players come on board, the integration that we've had in the first team, in training and in matches as well. That must make you really proud.
Yeah, I think as I said, like a year ago we sat here and we talked about how important the academy was, and we talked about how that integration was paramount. And you know, we've grown as a staff and base in that space, and you know, we'll come into the academy in a bit when we talk to Jeremy, or when you talk to Jeremy. But I think what's really pleasing is when you see across the competitions we're now in, we've expanded that to give more opportunities for young players to step across. You know, there's ample amount of minutes that have been given to young players, and young players get minutes in the training environment as well, which is just as important. You know, we are on split sites, so there comes with challenges, but I feel like we've been able to integrate everything that we're doing from a first team aspect across to the academy. And you know, hopefully you're starting to see, even you know, disappointing as the result was last night, you're starting to see how that integrates from a playing perspective in their space as well. So yeah, there's still plenty to do and there's still plenty to come. So you know, we're all excited to keep leading that forward.
There'll be a lot more football chat throughout the night, I'm sure, but obviously wearing your chairman hat as well, I know you look around the club and things like the foundation, the women's team are having an extraordinary season as well. Progress on kind of every front as well, isn't there? Not just on the men's side.
Yeah, and you know, we're super passionate as an ownership group to keep supporting that, and you know, I've been along to a number of the games as well with my family to take in the day and taking that experience. And you know, I'm super proud. I mean, I speak to Mark quite regularly around how we can help and support and grow that on their side. You know, and they're run currently in the league, and you know, obviously they've come out of a couple of competitions, but it seems like they're still heading in a great direction, hopefully for promotion push as well. So, you know, I think the club on that side is growing. You know, Tim's is now on the board on the foundation side. So again, that link is growing. You know, and from our side, you know, having the women's games on at Adams Park again is a super exciting place for us to be, and we want to continue that, and we will continue that going forward.
Great. Of course, you were at the Bucks Business First Awards as well with the foundation, named Community Champions. This wasn't just a charitable event, was it? It was businesses. So for them to come out on top in that category, a real sort of feather in the cap for the football club and the foundation.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a privilege for me to be invited by Mark and the foundation to join them on that night. It was a special night to credit everyone involved in everything they achieved heading towards that, and not just for that award, but for everything they do day to day is remarkable. And we're proud for us all to share the same badge. And we want to make sure that we continue growing that. And Jeremy and the guys sat here are always in tandem, working with them on different projects. So yeah, excited to continue that.
Of course, we're sat here at Adams Park. It's undergone a lot of renovation over the summer. You've just come down from Marlow Road, where you've been all day, which again is kind of unrecognisable to how it was when we left it 2 years ago. Obviously, Jeremy and the team based over at Harlington. Fantastic to have this operation performing so professionally on 3 different sites. Obviously, there's a little bit of turbulence, obviously, with the first team going over to Harlington, coming back to Marlow Road. But where we are now in terms of those 3 sites, great to have kind of those professional standards and the elite environment that you wanted and you set out 18 months ago. Yeah,
you hit it in that last part there. Again, when I sat here the year ago, I said that we wanted, some real core pillars of the football club to drive standards in. And one of those was the pitch, the facilities, and the people. And fundamentally, you look out there now, we have a playing surface that, we've got Fulham here a few weeks back, complimenting how well the surface is. We've got, we've got a great site in Marlow Road, and we're able to utilise that. We're able to use that expertise that have come into the building and staff to help tweak things and make things advanced and compare us to a Premier League training ground. And, for Michael to come in and for us to talk and go back to how we attracted a number of players we have done to this football club, showing them around the facility, showing them the vision, showing them the project, showing everything that we're doing behind the scenes, which again, some of the guys will talk about this evening, we're able to implement that. But then ultimately for us, again, Harlington is still something that we invest towards. We make sure that, the things that we might be adding to the gym in the first team environment are also added into the academy environment in the gym. So again, there's that similarity that stems across. There's some great work that's gone on behind the scenes here that hopefully some of you may have seen in the changing rooms. And again, we're just adding those extra touches that allows us to become elite.
And finally, I want to touch on the supporters, because obviously the lifeblood of the football club. It's so fantastic to see so many of you that have been coming year after year after year, and you're still coming back. It's part of who you are. And I'm looking at 5 of you on the stage who 18 months ago weren't part of the family that is Wycombe Wanderers, and obviously you've grown to love it. I thought it was really impressive to see, given the disappointment of how last season ended with the playoffs, to come back with record-breaking season ticket sales and kind of the surge of support now that is behind the team feels as strong as ever.
Yeah, and absolutely paramount to everything we do day to day. It doesn't go unnoticed. I'm at every away game and I see, familiar faces that travel home and away, and whether it's a nights like tonight when it's freezing cold and it's the travel, we do thank you. We try and thank you in performances, and hopefully now you can start seeing how that now correlates and translates. But fundamentally, we've got a team of volunteers that are here day in, day out, helping support the football club. And again, that doesn't go unnoticed, and we'll make sure, and we've got some things that we're talking about in the how we recognise and how we give recognition to those people that help the club. We still want to grow, we still want to advance and move our fan base forward, and Tim is obviously led on a number of those initiatives, and Tim and the commercial team behind the scenes have obviously pushed things, and hopefully you've seen, as you say, with the record ticket sales, we're heading in a great direction.
And just lastly, a new partnership that we've finally sealed today, and we're able to reveal tonight to our supporters. Yeah,
so we've partnered with Her to Game, so Her Game 2. Sorry, apologies. Her Game 2. So that's something that we're super proud of. That Tim's obviously going to come on to shortly as well and talk a bit more about that.
Fantastic stuff. Well, Michael, I'll come to you next. You'll be relieved to know I haven't got anywhere near as many questions for you. I do talk to you 2 or 3 times a week. It's 2 months today exactly since your first game, and if just one of those shots had gone in at Port Vale, we'd be sitting here at the best ever start by a new manager or head coach at Wycombe in our EFL history. I would ask for a round of applause, but it's just his job. He's just doing his job. 2 months, Michael, has it felt like it's flown by?
Yeah, the first 4 or 5 weeks was it's a whirlwind trying to... Every other job I've gone in at the start of a season. So you get a full pre-season to sort of embed non-negotiables, behaviours that you expect. And here you're trying to do that whilst picking up points, change the mentality, get to know all the players, because there's a lot of them. So yeah, it's sort of settled down a little bit now. It doesn't mean that it gets any easier. It just, you can start drilling down on detail now rather than trying to cover everything. It's more specific. But no, it's been really enjoyable. Results help. Sport has been welcoming. Players have been really welcoming in terms of just their attitude and willingness to change. Some players don't want to change, some players don't want to improve, but we have got a young group, and there's a good ethic in terms of they want to learn, they want to get better, even little extras. There's a lot of coaches, but after every session there's little individual extras, and at some clubs the training finishes and they all just walk in. But that's already embedded at the football club, which is, which from my point of view, is good, because you want to help people, but you can only help people if they want to be helped, and they do that here.
It felt like there was an immediate upturn in results when you came in, but some of your post-match interviews stressed you certainly weren't too impressed with the performances. But the last few weeks, you know, we've played Huddersfield off the park, we've played Leyton Orient off the park, Plymouth in the Cup, gone toe-to-toe with Fulham in the Cup. How have you kind of implemented that upturn in performances where now we've got a side that's picking up these big score lines, the data seems to be really, you know, performing, showing that we're right at the top end of the league. How have you kind of made that transition from it not just being about the results, but now bringing the performances into it as well?
I think the players have been honest with themselves. So did a little questionnaire with the players anonymously. So it's an opportunity to give them a voice of what they think, because they've all got opinions. They all go home and speak to their parents or their agents or whatever, the partners, and this is rubbish, this is rubbish, this is rubbish, he should be this. Well, don't bitch and moan about it, put it on a piece of paper. And then we had an honest conversation. I told them what I thought, having seen it. And it's like, right, well, what do you want it to look like? So it's pointless me standing in front of a group of people like this, pontificating, saying, well, I think this, I think that. It's irrelevant. If they don't want to do it, they won't do it. So having that sort of honest conversations with them, whilst trying to find the best formation. Again, I've generally been a 3-5-2 in this league. But it's pointless what I think. You've got to work with the tools that you've got. That took a little bit of time, whilst trying to embed a mentality and behaviours and all those types of things. But over time, we have to sort of focus less on that, because they're already becoming day-to-day habits, which is good, which comes out on a Saturday. And then you can get into the detail of, you know, we're a back four now, so we've settled on a back four. You know, that's why against Fulham we decided to stay with the back. Could have quite easily gone 5-4-1 to try and protect players and things like that. So no, we're playing a Premier League team, we need to get better in a back four. So luckily we did okay. And it's that detail now, that in and out of possession, that hopefully it becomes more fluid. So Leyton Orient in the last home game end up changing shape, so we just tweak 2 players 5 yards. But at the start, they don't know what those 5 yards look like, because they don't know what you want. So having the ability to spend that time and drill down on that detail and find out the personalities of the players. You know, I've just been chatting to someone there, and what you guys forget is they're all human beings. You know, you guys see a name and a number, but they've all got stuff going on at home, whether it's wives, parents, relationships. You know, they've all got stuff going on, and you have to find out about each one of them as well, because some of them need to be told, some of them want to be shown things, some of them don't want to just leave me alone, I'm all right. So I'm finding out all that whilst they're finding out about me. So that's why the first 4 or 5 weeks are so chaotic. It's settled down a little bit now. Hopefully the results keep going.
Well, I quite enjoy on our Thursday press sessions when the media start throwing all these positive stats at you, and you're very quick to come back and just point out, look, we're only X number of points above the bottom four, you know, and obviously where we've come from since your arrival states that obviously that's the first thing to look at is obviously, you know, where we are above the bottom four, but a lot of points still to play for in the season. Where do you see the trajectory of the team this season?
I don't know. I generally, that's how I think. I've won a league at a previous club and we never once talked about where, because talk's cheap. Oh, we're going to do this, and this. Unless you're doing it, it's pointless. You know, the whole, well, if you reach for the stars, if you don't quite get there, you'll get to the moon. Absolute load of nonsense. Unless you're prepared to work and do it properly, day in, day out, then pop your head up and see where we're at. So we've just had a little 10-game review with the players. And again, we asked them, what do you want these 10 games to look like? And it's all right putting it on a flip chart, which we did. We reviewed it 10 games later. Right, we've kept 5 clean sheets. We've become more consistent. We've become harder to beat. They're their words, not mine, but they've worked at it. The staff are there to help them. Because ultimately, if we can help them and they win games, it makes the staff look good. So it's a positive circle. And, you know, we don't want to blame culture. We've got a lot of players, so it's difficult. At the minute, it's easier when you're winning because you don't get as many knocks on the door, but you still get knocks on the door because they all want to play. So, yeah, I don't know where we could finish. I genuinely don't. I'm not really interested that far down the line. It's what's the next half look like? And genuinely, that's the way we work. We come in at half-time, bit weird, it weirds a few of them out because they all put music on in the dressing room before the game, or they all have their AirPods in and they're all getting psyched up and getting ready, right, start the game well, start the game well. That's all you hear, start the game well. We'll come in at half-time, have a chat. We might be winning 2-0, losing 2-0, make a couple of tactical changes, which you do at the start of the game. So I tell them, put the music back on. And they're like, well, at half-time, I was just reset and try and win the next half. And that's the positive. If we can be 3-0 down at half-time and get beat 3-1, but you still win the second half, so you can carry that positivity into the next week. So it's generally the way I work, and the players have gone with it now, because you know they're going with it because they're talking about it. So that's when you know that your messages are already starting to get through to the players.
Love it, Michael. There'll be a lot more to come from you later on, I'm sure. We'll pass the mic along if that's okay to Jeremy. Jeremy, this time last year we spoke about the launch of the academy. At that point it was possibly just you or maybe one or two other members of staff on board as well. And there was a lot of theory and there was a lot of this is what we want to do, this is what we're going to do. It's wonderful to sit here and have people like Cam Stones and Arthur Gregory now as household names and ones that the fans are really looking out for and hoping can prosper. Wonderful to see the academy up and running, playing games in front of crowds now. Talk us through where we're at now, kind of where we've come from, how kind of proud you are, but I guess also, you know, your overview of the academy, both on the football pitch, but how it's been built up, the infrastructure, the education, the pastoral care. It feels like it's in really great shape.
Yeah, there's a lot there, right? But yeah, this time last year I was reflecting on that as well. Obviously, we were putting some stuff up on the screens and trying to articulate a vision and a narrative. And it's been a really, really busy year. And yeah, you're right. Like, we're really, really proud of what we've done. I think it's from a fan's point of view. Like, we're really proud that we've had 7 debuts, 3 16-year-olds, and we've used the cup competitions, and the club have been really supportive of that. So that's been fantastic. And one of the objectives that we're trying to do is obviously create a narrative, because the club's not had an academy for 13 odd years. In fact, the last FA Youth Cup game before Bristol Rovers a few weeks ago was 2011. We lost to Crawley. So there's this big gap, and we're just trying to essentially tell the outside world of what we're doing. And we're trying to create a narrative that we have this pathway here, and we're a really, really viable and good place for young players to come and play their football. And we're doing that in lots of ways. Obviously, that's, you know, the visible stuff is Arthur Stones and Cameron, who are doing those, getting their debuts and getting minutes. But the stuff that goes behind that, like, we've got players, as Dan alluded to, training regularly at Marlow Road, and that's a massive one for me. We can control that a little bit more than the boys making debuts or staying in that team. So that's been really, really positive, because that gives them the opportunity to obviously experience and close the gap and start transitioning, hopefully. But if I wind back the clock, sorry, I think like this time last year, it was just me, maybe one or others. We've now got 20 full-time staff, which is massive. So the club have supported it massively. We've got 26 players. We are building towards 2 teams next year. So this year we've got 1 group of under-18s, essentially. Next season we'll have a little bit more than that. So it'll probably look like two teams, more or less. So we're continuing to add talent and recruit talent, and we're attracting players now from, you know, probably destinations and places that we weren't able to this time last year, because we've got that credibility, because we can reference Cameron Stones, because they come to Carlington and it's a really, really good high-end performance training environment that obviously the club have supported. We've got some really high-end practitioners and staff that are working with the boys on a day-to-day basis that have joined Little Wycombe Wanderers from Chelsea's, we've got a member of staff starting next Thursday who's joining from Arsenal. So there's a real intrigue in what we're doing, and the blank canvas that we've got as an academy is really attracting people to that, and the pathway, the vision that the club have set out is also really attractive to bring people to the club, players and staff. So the culture's building. It won't happen overnight. the return on investment from an academy in terms of financial, but also putting first team players, making them regular. So Arthur and Cameron have had appearances, but they're not regularly as they are. That's what I've got to aim for. That'll take a bit of time. It'll definitely take a bit of time. It'll be quicker than a lot of places because we've got a real ambition and intent for it, but it will take a bit of time. And my main objective, obviously, is to try and get a return on investment for the football club, but equally for you guys is to try and make sure that you guys have players that you would consider to be homegrown players and that you can, fall in love with essentially as footballers, because that's the beauty of an academy player playing in the first team, and that's what we haven't had for 13 odd years, so that's what we're aiming for.
Love it. We're going to move to Tom to stay on football, and we'll finish with Tim. So Tom joined us February, March time, Director of Football Strategy and Data Intelligence. I thought I was just about getting my head around XG, and then Tom told me at the weekend there's more than one type of XG, so I'm at a loss to explain it, and we're not going to cover it all tonight. But Tom, can you talk us through your role, the implementation of data, and we were chatting beforehand about some of the performance data that we won't necessarily see in front of us with our eyes. We won't necessarily see it on a bit of paper on the BBC stats, but the levels of performance and how kind of data is driving that, and hopefully, obviously, over the course of the season, we'll really reap the rewards from it.
I think data analytics in football isn't necessarily a super new thing. My background, I'm quite fortunate to have come from 2 Premier League clubs for the majority of my career before, so I got to see a lot of how it gets implemented and put in place over that time period. I think the most important thing to reference at this point is that it's a support to a decision making. It's not a replacement of a human decision, and so it's a real strong arm for making sure that you have the right markers at set pieces, because you've got real detailed analytics around the aerial win percentage of the opponent as well as their physical profile. So we know how we want to defend and how we want to nullify their strength, and it's a further support to the strategy that we're going to put in place for something like that. We're able to look in more detail at the opposition for which side they're most likely to attack down, which is their most potent attacking threat. But I guess the traditional thought amongst the fan base is that you get very simple stats, and you'll know how many passes they complete and how many shots they take and how many are on target. But the amount of information that we have at our fingertips now is mind-boggling. So for all opposition, as well as having all of the sort of technical data, that more traditional type information around shots, pass completion, all of this type of thing. There's also far more detailed data analytics around how many opponents their passes will take out of the game, how many times they've broken the opposition defences, how many times they've broken past opponents with their ball carries. But we also get, via a company called Skill Corner, they do pixel tracking information that gives you the physical outputs as well. So not only do we know in detail what the opposition is from a physiological perspective, from their size and build, we also know sort of what top speeds they're capable of, how many sprint distance they're capable of, what their high speed running intent is, who their most potent attacking threats are, and it just sort of further supports Michael, the analysts, when we're coming with a game plan. But that's what it is. It's a support. It's never going to overtake a human decision, I think.
And in terms of recruitment as well, because obviously of the 16 summer signings, some of them are perhaps names that the regular fans might not be familiar with, some out of under-21s football, some from other areas, a couple from Scotland as well. Data has obviously played a big part in that as well, compared to what Wycombe fans are used to, where we're probably signing more recognised EFL regulars, your Akinfenwas, McHale Smiths, Tysons, etc. It feels like the net is now wider because of the capability of the recruitment bringing players to your attention through data. Yeah,
and I've worked in recruitment now for probably sort of 15 years. I did about 12, 13 years at Southampton, and then 2 years at Nottingham Forest prior to coming here. And so I've sort of been able to sort of watch the full evolution of how player recruitment sort of happens within football. When I very first started at Southampton, we had a massive network of scouts globally, and the amount of data information that we were able to collate on players was sort of minimal. And then over that period of time, you have started seeing how you can use data analytics to be much more efficient in the way that you go into new markets or scout the market that you're currently in. And so it enables you to be much more targeted from the off. So like I say, we can scout a league tomorrow that we've never watched a single game in, and we'll be able to have a very good shortlist of players before we've even watched a single minute of footage. So we know exactly, we can go with a really targeted approach. And then that's not to say that your traditional scouting methods don't come through within that. You know, you're watching this player, but this player's constantly standing out as well, and you'll do further research and detail into that player. But it's sort of allowed a lot more time efficiency, and like you say, it's enabled you to scan the net much wider. But there's also sort of further things within that, like there's a lot of rules and regs, especially post-Brexit, around which players can be in the country, which ones get the sort of appropriate GBE qualifications, who would be an ESC type player, and being able to sort of manage all of that information in a big database enables you to sort of unearth the players that are playing elsewhere that qualify for a passport to come and play within the English game as well, which is something that obviously, like a Brad Fink is an example there, that he's never been to England really, but due to the sort of qualification via his mother having been from England and having the English passport, he doesn't qualify as an ESC player for us. He's homegrown. He's an English player.
Happy days. And Tim, we'll come to you. Dan's taken us on a whistle-stop tour of kind of the overview of the club and a lot of the off-field stuff. One of the big topics, I guess, that hasn't been yet discussed is probably the thing occupying most of your time, and that's Farnham Park and the South Bucks area there and the potential training ground. And can you just talk us through a little bit more about that project? Because I know you're kind of at the lead of that.
Okay. So on South Bucks and Farnham Park, we've entered into an arrangement with the council whereby we're basically taking over the lease, a long-term lease, 75 years, for the two sites. We've got a sort of dual edge aim on it. So one site's going to be purely community. At the moment, there's rugby on there, football on there, softball, baseball, unity martial arts. I'm going to carry on with that. We'd like to build a community sports hub, move the foundation there, who will run the site, maybe have some paddle tennis courts, have a fun run round the outside. So real community, grassroots football, grassroots from other sports, a real impact for Buckinghamshire. And then there's a community golf course on the other side where we'd like to, this is all subject to planning, build a combined training centre for our academy and our first team for excellence, and move everybody onto the one site, and also carry on with the golf, but probably a 9 to 12 hole golf course as well, because we want to support all sports on the site. It won't be a stadium, just if in case I think some people thought it was a stadium. It's purely training ground, and no pressure on Jeremy, but we would like to get through to a Category 1 academy, which involves indoor dome, extra pitches, and obviously we want to keep developing the first team and have first-class facilities.
Where are we in that stage of the process, Tim? What timescales?
Very early stages, so we're still doing all the legal paperwork with the council, though we have signed heads of terms. We have to go through all the planning. We're in the process of trying to appoint some architects for the overall master plan. Once we've done that, there's a whole load of public consultations to be done, listen to people, see what's best for all the sports, and also combine that with the outcome that we want from the site. Then we apply for planning. So hopefully we'll be applying for planning sometime during the summer, this sort of 2026, come the autumn, and then go through the planning process, and if we're successful, then we can start implementing our plans on those sites.
And away from that, Tim, I know you spin a lot of plates as well on the business side. This summer there was a big emphasis on trying to grow the attendances. Obviously we've touched on the record-breaking season ticket sales, a lot of extra efforts to bring more people to Adams Park. If you can just talk through some of the headlines of kind of what your role is entailed in terms of trying to make that possible with the extra access, the community engagement, and other bits and pieces that you're kind of overseeing as Chief Financial Officer.
So first of all, I'd just like to say thank you to all of you guys, and also thank you to all the volunteers. And I also see Tom and Sharon and Luke and Ryan, Emily and Dawn sitting at the back. We've got a great staff who've all contributed to everything and all work hard and together. So really my key bit, get more people at Adams Park on a match day and a non-match day, become financially sustainable, that's my finance hat on, and also deliver everything with excellence. I'm also conscious that, and no pressure on Michael or Dan or any of these guys, that we need to become off the pitch championship ready as well. So we're working towards those goals. So I'm delighted to say we've had a record season ticket sales. I've probably got the wrong number, but 3,105, which is the most we've ever had as a club, and we're a great club. Just love the area and love the club. 728 we included within that of junior season ticket holders, so we're trying to encourage that. We gave away free shirts, £25 a ticket for season holders, so that's all worked. And we've tried to combine that with improving the fan experience here. So I think you've obviously seen the fan zone, the mini blue club just there, for instance. We've introduced, or thanks to the owners, we've introduced a new Monty's sports bar, which is a sort of stepping stone to a corporate bit. We've obviously invested in the pitch, as Dan said, the training rooms, a warm-up room, the medical area, new dugouts, undersoil heating, which meant the match was on last night when it wouldn't have been on if we didn't have it. So we're in quite a good place for growing our supporter base, just getting more people here and also having a great time when people are here. And then off the pitch, we're also doing lots sustainably. We've won the Silver Award sustainably, thanks in large part to Izzy. We've been the first football club to get a CSR Grade A, which is all about corporate social responsibility, what we do in the community, being sustainable, etc. And also we looked at our carbon items as well. And we've just done, as Dan said earlier, a partnership with Her Game 2, which is to try and get more female fans here, make everyone feel safe. And we'll be holding a game in honour of that in March.
Well, that's all of my questions. We're going to come over to yours, which I'm sure will be far more juicy and exciting than some of mine. And I'm going to come to some that we've had in by email. We're just going to get straight to the crux of it. This is one probably for Dan, Michael and Tom, but you can share it out between you. The January transfer window. What do we think the January transfer window looks like in terms of strengthening signings? That's a question from Paul Hubbard via email.
I'll take that.
Hopefully I'll still be here, so.
Don't spend any money.
So obviously we had a big influx of players in the summer. One of the big things we did talk about back in the summer was making sure that we got as many of those players in sort of as early as possible and prior to the start of the pre-season. And that was largely to enable us to with such a big turnover of players, to make them into a team and to implement the game model that we wanted to put in, but also, more importantly, the physical program that we wanted to deliver as well. And so within that, I think I didn't expect to see the fruits of that until probably more April, May, March, April, May time, but I think we've got a record at the moment for the most goals in the last 15 minutes of League One games. The players are coming in much more sort of fit and feeling stronger on a Monday, and I think you're seeing physically in the games how well we're finishing as well. So I feel that the work from the summer was good, and I think we're now starting to see the fruits from that. As Michael said, it's actually quite a big squad. I think that's what's enabled us to sort of kick on and be competitive in those cup competitions. But if anything, we're probably going to have a couple of knocks on the door for players that aren't happy with the game time and potentially will be looking for something elsewhere. And then we're also got a couple of quite key figures that we'd be looking to tie down on a longer term. So I think the most exciting sort of signings of this window are hopefully going to be the ones that we're retaining with us. But the good thing about that is that I guess it doesn't feel that we've got big pressure to go into the market. We of course need to be ready if any of our influential players seek or get interest from elsewhere. I mean, we are getting more and more championship scouts at our games, which is testament to how well some of the players are doing within the first team squad. So we're of course ready in some key areas with some targets that we've identified, and we're always ready for if a really strong opportunity presents itself. We obviously want to be the best that we can be, so if there is a top opportunity that we identify in January, then we'll go after that, but we're not under huge pressure to go into what is quite a difficult window to sign players, traditionally the January window.
Yeah, no, just to add that, our aim was always to bring the age of the group and the age of the squad down. So we've done that, and obviously we'll continue to do that. As Tom's alluded to, you know, we had a big January last year, so you know, I think for us it's really just to stabilise and work with Michael around where we are missing gaps and where we are potentially taking opportunities. But again, you know, the squad is of a size where we want to make sure we can bring through academy graduates just as much so as well.
I'm going to come to John Mitchell's question because it's linked to recruitment, and I'm going to paraphrase John, unfortunately, but in terms of last January, there was a perception at the time from some fans that it was perhaps disruptive in terms of the number of signings that came in and the perceived kind of maybe lack of immediate impact they had. But I know you guys have touched upon, you know, we're not just a window-to-window club. There's a lot of forward planning that goes into it. I think if you look at, I gave you the example earlier, someone like Anders, who's now really flourished and coming into the side, and actually the forward planning, the patience is all part of the recruitment process, I guess, in terms of making sure that we're strong, not just for a few months at a time, but really looking forward now.
Yeah, everything we do day to day, you know, inclusive of Michael now, is forecasting and planning our future. So I think, again, I sat here a year ago and talked about what does it look in 3 years' time, and everything we do on the transfer windows looks towards that. So you mentioned Anders, but you know, Alex Lowry comes to fruition now as well in moments, and he still needs to do more, but he's coming more to the party. And there's other players to mention that we brought in January that didn't work out. So we see that, we understand that. Again, what we have to anticipate as well is Tom's touched on it, that you know, we were in a really good place in that January window, and you know, we wanted and we saw a really good opportunity for us to head towards the championship. So for us to go and get players that we felt can deliver at that level. We also had a number of players out of contract heading into that summer. So again, giving ourselves the opportunity to clear way for opportunities to come in the building in that summer window. So yeah, there was the word disruption. I feel that's a bit, you know, is a strong one, but at the same time, we had a squad capable of taking us over the line and beyond, and that ultimately is what we looked at, and that's what we forecast.
Not too many football questions came in, which you can take that as a compliment, Michael, I think. There might be some from the floor. I'm going to try and get round to make sure that everyone who asked a question is put across. There was a couple of duplications. Long term, I like this one from Rog because it starts with the words, when we go up to the championship. And it's in terms of, I guess, the measures that will be made as a club, and you talked about infrastructure and kind of making sure we're ready for it. But in terms of Adams Park, and this links into Tracy's question as well about what are the long-term plans for Adams Park? Are we looking to improve this stadium, or is there a plan to look for a new stadium potentially if the requirement comes?
I think at the moment, being very boring with figures, this season we're at 59% occupancy, so we're not filling the stadium at the moment. I wouldn't have thought it would be sensible moving to a new stadium until we fill this stadium, and obviously myself and all our team are working towards getting more people here, and with great results on the pitch, great atmosphere and a better fan experience, hopefully we'll start to fill and actually make this stadium full and have a great atmosphere behind the team. We're also looking at having a second egress route and ingress route from the upper car park going across the Wycombe estate, and hopefully going out onto, for those of you know the Big Ben car boot sale, going out onto the A40 there. Obviously, again, that's subject to planning permission, but we're working on that at the moment. And obviously, it's how much it will cost, etc. But that would be great if we've got two routes in. That will enable us to get people in and out of the stadium quicker, and also be good for safety and emergency vehicles as well. So we're trying to get Championship ready. At some point, we'll have to look at the stand as it gets older. We spent a lot of money this summer of things you won't have seen, but some of the stanchions were corroding, so we've improved that. So I think the intention in the short term is stay here and fill Adams Park, but make the getting in and out of the stadium easier and making a great fan experience.
Thank you. I hope that answers a couple of questions. There was one earlier from Alex about whether there'd be a new stadium at Farnham, but I think you've answered that, Tim, and also the improvements here at Adams Park. So hopefully these questions are being answered for you. This question from Ian Brown, and Jeremy touched on it earlier. The question is, when are the club forecasting to get payback from the academy investment? And I guess to paraphrase that, what does success look like for the academy? And I guess that question comes from a funding point of view, in terms of all the investment that's gone into the academy. what does that look like down the line when players all of a sudden start coming through into the first team and obviously being sold on, and potentially there's interest for the club in that? Not sure who wants to take that question, but...
Listen, there's obviously no crystal ball for this. There's a lot of moving parts that we need to get right as a football club to maximise the potential and the talent. Recruitment being the first part of that. We need to be more and better in terms of bringing young talent. I had a moment a few weeks ago at the Bristol Rovers game where we were entertaining a couple of players that had been released from a really, really, really big name club. So we're doing the right things in that respect. And we're still working really hard, everyone on the stage here and others behind the scenes, to try and make sure that we make the transition as easy as possible for players. And Michael and I were just talking about game model, which is, you know, the style of football that we're playing and how that helps the players when they hopefully cross the line over into Michael's team and training environment. So there's loads of different moving parts in that. Essentially, from sort of my KPI in the academy is, and from the ownership group, is 2 players per season. What that looks like, obviously we've had 7 debuts. I wouldn't qualify that we've had 2 players that have now become into the first team, even though we've had 7 debuts. So we need to aim towards next summer as an academy. That will give us a year to hopefully have 1 or 2 at least in your pre-season, and then hopefully they stake a claim. And of course we can't control that. That's up to them at that point. But we'll need to give them the environment and give them every opportunity as a football club to try and have success. The investment into the academy is obviously fairly significant compared to other League One or Category 3 or Category 4, which is the games programme that we operate in. But we know, again, Dan's alluded to it there, like we're trying to look beyond where we are now, and we're trying to find, recruit a level of player and develop a level of player that will help the club add value on the pitch. And for us, that is Championship. That's where we're aiming towards. And that's like the 6th or 7th hardest league in Europe. So it's a really, really high challenge point. It's not easy. But we also know, doing a lot of research, that young players that make it into the Championship and can play 30, 40, 50 games, that's where then you start getting significant return on your investment. So that's ultimately 2 players per season. But if we can, as a football club, in the near future, medium-term future, get ourselves into the Championship and play football in that division, and we're blooding young players at that point, then I think, you know, that's where we'll get a return on investment.
Great. Okay, I've got one more question that came in from Chris. This is a finance question, so one for you, Tim, and then we'll throw it open to the floor. So get thinking. Darcy will come around with a microphone. So once we've dealt with this one, we'll come to the floor. The question from Chris, Tim, was that clearly the club has made considerable investment in new staff and facilities over the last 18 months. How has this been funded? Has there been a share issue to allow for equity investment by Mikhail, or is the cash loaned to the club?
Well, the combination is both. So while there hasn't been a formal share issue, we've got a fantastic owner who funds us really, really well. And when we need the money, Mikhail will provide the money as long as it's budgeted for. And he generally tends to put in the money as a loan, but then we convert it into a permanent loan. So, for instance, this last year, and I forget if I've got the figure slightly wrong, but we converted 5.3 million worth of loan into permanent share capital, and we've already done about a further 10 million this year. So we're trying to build the strength of the balance sheet. So it's brilliant from the club, but there will be a large loan from Mikhail or Feliciano also on our balance sheet. But we've paid off, we don't have any other loans, we've paid off a Football League loan because of Mikhail's kindness.
I've got 2 more quick-fire ones, Tim, for you that I'd skipped past. One from Jack is about whether the club would reconsider opening a club shop in the town centre to boost the presence of the club in the town.
Probably the simple answer to that is no, but if I go back on that and explain why, I've worked at various football clubs and we've always looked at putting club shops in town centres or centres around, and actually they're just not financially viable, especially in the current day and age. So if I looked at Wycombe Town Centre, for instance, we might have to pay £40,000 just in rates, let alone the related bills, having staff there. We have to keep it open for certain hours. You just don't get the return on it. So we're better off keeping our club shop here and improving our online presence.
And the second part of the question from Rog that I didn't get to was a concern that if we got to the Championship, we weren't able to fill home areas with home fans, would be that we would give more home areas to away fans. Obviously, there'd be clubs with far bigger followings. Is that something that Wycombe fans could be concerned about?
From my point of view, we want to fill the stadium with Wycombe fans. I'd like to keep the away fans even smaller and just fill it with Wycombe fans. So I can't see us allowing extra space for away fans as we stand.
Phew. Right, questions from the floor. Darcy will have a mic, so we're going to go to Peter in the second row.
Thank you, Darcy. I didn't realise I'd be first. Am I on?
You're on? Yeah.
Yeah, good. First of all, I come here basically as a supporter, so I love what I see at the moment. So thank you to Michael and thank you to the rest of the club, but that's really good. I thought the whole presentation was extremely good and I feel very heartened. I feel much more heartened than I did in the days of the last ownership, and I think things are moving well. The reason I'm speaking now is just something that Tim said, and I'm sure there's an answer to it, but you waxed very lyrical, Tim, about the work we're doing with the community in Farnham, which, if I'm right, is somewhere near Slough. It's a long way away from here, and I guess that many people sitting here now have probably never been there. All the work you're doing with the community there, and community this, and community judo, and community rugby. What I want to know is what the club's doing for the community in High Wycombe, which is where we're based. Again, I wasn't particularly thrilled to hear that we're not even looking for a centre for a shop in High Wycombe, although I do appreciate the problems you've mentioned. I think we could probably pick one up free at the moment in a variety of ways, which I could explain. But yeah, my real concern is we're doing a great deal for the community of somewhere near Slough. What are we doing for the community of High Wycombe? And I mean those people in High Wycombe who don't currently come to football matches, but perhaps should. Okay. I'm sure there's a good answer.
Yep, no, there is. I don't know whether anyone else wants to take it. So I think we will always carry on doing loads for the people in High Wycombe. We work very close with the foundation, probably closer now than has been over the past few years, to work with the foundations, do loads for people in High Wycombe. It's very important. The whole of Buckinghamshire, particularly High Wycombe, this is where our stadium is, but the new training and community there is one separate issue of doing community work, but we're not going to stop doing any community work in this area. So although this is just an example, I think on the 30th of November we've got a Santa Dash where we're raising money for hospice with the foundation, and we've got some Christmas stalls coming out here. We're going to be doing a community day with a foundation and a match on the 24th of January, probably a Her2 game early in March. So we're doing loads with the community. I'll give you, for instance, in conjunction with the foundation last year, we sort of celebrated Eid and had 4,000 people on the pitch celebrating that. So I think you'll find that we've got a dementia cafe running with the foundation at the club every week, and we're doing loads and loads of stuff with the foundation for the local community.
Any more questions from the room? Yep, Steve?
Hi there. The question for me is to Tim. You're talking about the Farnham Common development, which is now going to include the academy and the first team. Now, my understanding was that Harlington was there because you're in a certain zone for the youngsters to come and join. I mean, is Farnham still in that zone? That's question number one. And then question number two is, how many pitches are you going to be putting down to be able to accommodate all the teams?
Again, we're in the early stage of doing the master plan, but we'll probably need at least 6 pitches there, probably more, and that's off the top of my head, but Dan would be able to, and the others from the football's perspective, on the pitches. I believe we're still in the area, but Jeremy will be able to answer that about whether we're in the right location and the right area. But having both together is kind of quite important. They can learn together, etc. And our lease in Harlington only runs for 5 years, so we've tried to renew it with Imperial College, but at the moment then that's not forthcoming, so we've got to have an alternative there anyway.
Yeah, the catchment area is, I mean, first and foremost, for us to be successful as an academy, being with the first team is going to be crucial longer term, so that's really important, and Harlington, that hasn't been viable for different reasons. As an academy, we've really benefited from being in Harlington in terms of a talent point of view. where the new development would be essentially isn't actually that far. It's on the other side of the M25, and we would still have, in terms of access, the M25, the M4, the M3, the M40, but yeah, and more importantly, we have the Elizabeth line, and that's where we can then have, and that's what's happening at the moment. We have numerous boys coming around from London everywhere to Hayes and Harlington, and essentially now they'd be moving another 2 stops down the Elizabeth line. So from that point of view, yeah, we'd be really, we'd be really comfortable.
Okay, any more questions from the floor? Yeah, we'll come to the front row and then go straight to the back.
I guess just a brief one, because it's planning-related matters and community engagement. How can fans play their part in, I guess, promoting the club in a positive way? Because it's a family-run club, and yes, we are in Wycombe, but the catchment at Farnham Common, you looked on the Bucks Free Press Facebook comments, very negative campaigning. People who fill out consultations usually aren't very representative of the wider public. So would you promote fans being active within the consultation responses?
That would be fantastic. I mean, we want to do the right thing for the whole community of Bucks, including the Wycombe area, and for the sporting area, etc. So the more we can get people behind it, the better. And I think we've got a really good plan. It's very community-led. It's going to impact, hopefully, hundreds and thousands of lives, so it should be a good thing. I think the kind of anti-parade, without we need to call him out, is some golf club members who, they're not actually, they don't own the golf course, it's a council-owned golf course, but 2 different golf clubs use it, and it's those that are very anti. As you can see, they don't want to go from an 18-hole golf course, which you'd understand, to a 9-12 hole, and they're quite noisy at the minute, but we're trying to keep everything factual and working very closely to make sure that we do the right thing, and we're speaking to Golf England, we're speaking to Sport England, so we're ticking off boxes in a genuine way. I hope that's answered your question.
Two questions, if I might. For Jeremy, could you just tell us a bit about the talent pool for our academy recruits, how competitive it is, and how confident you are in achieving your aims in terms of getting players of the requisite quality and then getting them into the first team squad? And for Tim, could you just tell us a bit in terms of the Farnham project, but also any other ongoing issues like, for example, the access, how the relationship is with Bucks Council? Thanks.
In terms of the boys, there's 26 boys at the moment. We did a little sort of review of our recruitment process over the last, and we started this time last year actually. The recruitment process started, I think, in October half term last year. And so the group consists of 40% boys that have never been near an academy, so they're grassroots essentially, or they've been playing men's football as a 16 or 17-year-old. And the other 40% is have come from academy football, so they've been released from academy football. So we've got a real blend, a real mix there. We've got boys in host families, so they've come from a bit further afield. We've got a boy from Brighton, we've got a boy from Hastings, and from the east side of London, as well as this side of the world as well. So that they come from far and wide. That's been a real competitive advantage for us to be able to recruit from a bit further. And obviously London, there is every club in the country and probably Europe that is competing for talent in London. So it's really, really competitive. It hasn't been, and we knew this would be the case, it hasn't been that hard to find really good footballers. And some of the ones that you've seen. So Cameron is an example, he was released from QPR. Whereas Mackay Savage, who's been in and around it, hasn't really been near academy football, but he's been playing men's football. So it hasn't been that hard to find that level of player. It's really hard to find a level of player that you would say, yeah, he's a Premier League player or he's a Championship player, because they're already at another club, right? So we've got a really big job then to try and develop them over the next 2, 3, 4 years, whatever that journey looks like for them. So am I confident? I'm really confident that what we've got is a really good start, and we've got boys that are going to paint the pathway for others to come in the future. But I know from what we're doing and the activities that we're already putting in place, we've got more time to run a better recruitment process and an improved recruitment process, so we will get better. And reference to that is, I suppose, some of the boys now at 16 years old that are being released from bigger clubs are actually entertaining Wycombe Wanderers, which is something, you know, when we started a year ago, literally people were going, Wycombe Wanderers, is that how you say it? And that's what we were getting, right? So the narrative is building, and the more, obviously, case studies that we get, it's going to improve that. And, you know, every agent, every sort of person that's trying to earn a career, pathways and environment are the two big pillars, and that's what we're going after, to try and make sure that we've got a pathway that means that you don't get stuck in an under-21s team forever and never make it. We're trying to accelerate that, and that's where we can be different. Hope that's answered your question.
Yeah, and as regards to relationship with the council, obviously I can't speak for before my time, but certainly since I've been here in the last 6 months with Dan, Edward and Mikkel, we've had a couple of meetings with the council which have gone really well. I speak to the council on a weekly basis, and as far as I'm concerned, the council may say something different, but a really, really good, close working relationship in partnership, and it's been great to work with the council, and they've been very supportive of us, and we're working very closely with them.
Any more questions around the room? Yeah, in the second row. Thanks, Darcy.
Yeah, I was going to ask 3 questions. I guess you don't need to answer all of them. But the first one was for Michael. Just in terms of your football ambition, how far can Wycombe take you on that? And that I'm really interested to see how far you're, from a career point of view, where you are and where you want to go to. Love everything you've done so far, by the way. You've given us Wycombe back. Question for Jeremy was just around, as the academy expands, it seems it's quite fashionable to look further afield for talent and pick up talent in London, or you know, further south, down fishing down on the coast. How much talent is there in the Wycombe area, and are we doing enough to go after that talent? Because for me, that's really important for the community aspect. And then Tom, from a data point of view, it sounds like I'm a massive fan of data and I get slated online when I talk about some of the data, but what I want to know is, a lot of clubs now have data specialists. Where do we find that unique angle, that added value that helps the first team? Because it feels like everyone's flooded with data now. So 3.
Well, from my point of view, it's not about me. I said it before, the club's the brand, not me.
The question was about you, though.
Yeah, I get that. I was thankful for the opportunity. I was out of work. And the weather's starting to turn, so there's only so much golf you can play. In all seriousness, the word project's been it gets banded around quite a lot. You know, I was in a weird position where the first 28, 29 years of my career was spent at 2 clubs. And then I left one through my own choice, and it was probably a mistake, and since then I've had a couple of bumps. So the opportunity to build something is what I want to do. And with the owner, like you say, all the things that are getting put in, it's not just all getting thrown at a first team budget, that it's boom or bust, and it's like, well, if we don't go up, we're knackered, there's no future planning. You know, the football club's going to be a lot longer than any of us, so it's important that it's building and sustainable. I'm just as ambitious as I've always have been. I was as a player. I played non-league football, didn't make my Football League debut until I was 22. I didn't tell anybody. The ambition was always to play in the Premier League. I had to wait till I was 31. So the drive is always there. It was my biggest strength as a player. My mentality is I want to improve people and I want to do something with good people. And I think that's what I found at this football club. Yeah, it's all great at the minute because it's all rosy and we're going well. Ultimately, we're still 14th in the league. But that was the opportunity that attracted me to when Dan picked the phone up and it was right, do you want to come and have a meeting? To align sort of thoughts of how you want it to look, and it's not pipe dreams, it's not pie in the sky sort of thing, it has to be done yesterday. You have to build, and it takes time in football, and the modern football day fan wants success yesterday, particularly with an online presence. You know, you lose one game, you get booed off. But that's the way it is. So, sort of not answering the question entirely. Where can the club go? I've no idea. I don't know. But like I said, I just get my head down and work, knowing that I put my head on the pillow every night, going, I didn't try and cheat the system, and we'll end up where we end up. And whether it's the club go past me or I go past the club, it means the club's winning because someone's going. So, and that was the same. The same mentality as a non-league footballer at 18, getting released 3 times from clubs. The drive was always there. I just don't shout about it. And it's the same thing. It's like, let's talk's cheap. Like I said, no point, pointless. Let's reach for the stars and all that nonsense. It's like, get your head down, work, improve, with a chance of improving. Because my first club at Cheltenham, it didn't matter what you did, you got to a point where it got stuck. We don't have that. We've got an ambitious owner who's prepared to put his hand in his pocket and do it the right way. And again, that was the thing that attracted me to it. There's a chance to progress sustainably, properly, rather than just someone comes in, drops 20 million quid, but then disappears in 2 years' time and there's no football club left. That's not what Mikel wants, that's not what the ownership wants, so that was the most attractive part of it, definitely for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a really relevant question. I'm glad you asked it. There's two parts to it. I think the first part is in terms of trying to establish an academy quickly and quite aggressively, and to paint the picture of the pathway like I've talked about. London was the right, being in that London catchment was the right. If you look at the population centres just on Wikipedia alone, you get a quickly clear picture of where the talent's going to be available, especially because at the moment we're category 4, which means that it's 16-year-olds and above. So for us to establish ourselves and have players at the moment, or the majority of our players to be from the High Wycombe, Bucks area, it was harder to do and be competitive, really hard, because they're already at Oxford, they're already at Milton Keynes, they're already at Reading, wherever else they might be. So I think we've done the right thing. Long term, we're really, really aware of it. So we've got a couple of scouts that work in this area. We're working really closely with the foundation. And to the question that we had a little bit earlier about the location of the training ground, the new training ground will allow us obviously to be, one, closer. Two, it will allow us to have the younger age group, so the 9s to 16s will be a more formal pathway, so that will be when we open that out. And at that point then, we'll be competing very aggressively for the talent in this area here. And actually, we've got already a really big foot up on that because the foundation are doing an unbelievable job already of developing young players in their, they call it elite centres. And those boys at the moment can't come to the academy because we don't have those age groups yet. They're going at the moment at 12, 13, 14 off to Reading, or some have been to Crystal Palace and clubs in London. So we really are looking forward to being able to get those age groups so that we can then start aggressively talking, but dominate this area. And we played Oxford United the other day, and they had some really good age groups. I had a little look at them, and there's loads and loads of talent. The Wycombe of old, I remember it really well, where I was at Wimbledon, and we were aspiring to what Wycombe were doing because they punched above their weight, and Richard Dobson was doing an unbelievable job. And there's definitely talent in the area. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But for what our project at the moment has dictated that actually the catchment works really well. I can't remember who your third question was to.
Tom's had so long to think about his answer, it better be a good one.
I still haven't got a great one. No, so it was around, like you say, so many people do have access to pretty much the same information now, as you say. So I guess I'm probably a bit old school with a modern twist on it when it comes to data, because I sort of have been through the sort of full integration of it into a football club. And I still believe that it's still the power of the human interpreting it and using it and harnessing it and making sure that you're sort of taking the right insights from that and checking and challenging yourself for your practices. But where I see it done most effectively is when you're able to connect everything up together to get a full holistic view of everything, and you're sort of able to sort of really check and challenge the main questions that you've got there. So can we track and monitor everything? Then can we evaluate? Then can we make an adjustment? And then can we see if it brings about the change we want? And then see if we want to continue or if we want to revert back. And so that's sort of, like we are tracking the amount of time we're spending training in possession play, out of possession play, set play, finishing phase, defensive phase, aerial duels. Like, we will track what we do and how much we do it, and then how much of that's been taken from the Monday to Friday to the Saturday. And if we're consistently performing excellently in one area, then we know that bit's working and it's fine. And if there's a bit that needs tweaking and tailoring, then we can do that. But ultimately, it's what the humans are doing on the Monday to Friday and implementing those things that's the most important thing. And as you say, I think Michael's getting a lot of love tonight, but I think he more than deserves it for the work that he's doing right now, and the rest of the coaching staff as well.
Any more questions? We'll go to Andy in the middle, please.
Hello, everybody. Firstly, can I congratulate the football club on the initiative with the junior season ticket holders and the shirts. I think that's a great idea that the club have done this year. I think we're under tremendous pressure to trying to grow the supporter base with the amount or the opportunity for people to go to Premier League games, especially with grounds like Spurs increasing their capacity from 34 to 62,000. So we've got a real fight on our hands to gain extra support. I think one of the things is that's typified this club over the past few decade or since we've been in the Football League is that our support tends to be the young and the old and not the people in the middle, who tend, and an awful lot of those go up to London to watch Premier League games. But anyway, with regard to children, I think it's a great idea, and that's going to take time to build in the future. So if we keep doing things like that, great. One of the things I'd like to, personally I'd like to see, is when the previous owners bought the club, one of the first things they did was to scrap the match day programme. And I can understand why they did that, because in America, you go to sporting events and there aren't any match day. It just doesn't happen. But it's a part of the culture in this country. Now, I think going forward, because news gets old very quickly, I think what we need now is not a programme like it used to be, but just looking at what, say, Burnham did for £2 was a 20-page programme that's just more like an information sheet and maybe contains things like pen pictures of our own players with the sponsors, so the kids can take it home and look at it and learn about or get used to the players. Now, we were at a game at Brighton recently, and I bought a match programme, and there was a dad with two kids in front, and the kids kept turning around looking at my programme, and they were fascinated. And in the end, I said, go on, you have it, you take it home. And they spent a lot of the second half of the game actually just looking at a match programme. And they're going to look at that for days and days and days. We don't have that. And I think we're missing out on that. So my desire would be to reinstate a programme, but in a different format. So a 20-page programme, maybe for just a couple of quid, so it's an easy pick-up, would be absolutely ideal. But it's more of a souvenir than a programme would be thought of in the past. And the second part of my question is, I was one of the 66 people at Gillingham that went down there for the Virtue Trophy game. And one of the things I noticed at Gillingham, which is the same that happened here when we played Colchester, is they have one part of the ground for home fans, which is the bit along the side. The Rainham end, which is usually quite rowdy, and Gillingham is actually quite a good ground for atmosphere. There was absolutely no atmosphere there whatsoever. There was 900 people there. And it worked to our benefit because there was no real home support as such. And I think to a certain extent the same thing happened when we played Colchester here. The terrace was shut, and I don't know if you know the history of Wycombe and Colchester, but I think that would have been a game where it would have been good to open the terrace and get a bit of support for the team as much as anything else. And I know there's a cost factor in that, but also I think the team deserve a bit of support from people behind the goal for a game like that, and it might actually encourage more people to come, because at the moment our Virtue Trophy attendances have been pretty poor, to be honest.
Although you kind of quite statement, but so not really questions, but I can certainly say even today, I can't remember which staff member it was, but I was saying I hate it when we close any stands. So we'll take in, so that's me personally, but there is a cost to it with my finance hat on as well, but it's a point well made about keeping the terrace open for those matches, so we'll reconsider that and look at that. I'll also, Matt will love me for this, and Luke and Darcy, will look at the programme idea as well. I don't know, again, if it's financially viable, but I take the point on board, and we're always happy to consider everything. So thank you. So go back to Matt in a few weeks' time to see where we're at on it.
I'm asking the questions, not answering them. We will come back to Andy, no worries at all, thank you. 2 questions, we'll go here just because it's most local, and we'll come to you over there, thank you.
Yeah, just to I echo what the gentleman just said, because when it's like a routine, or it used to be a routine. When you bought the programme, often you'd look at sort of team news, you know, what's been happening during the week, but also you want to know what the opposition is. And there used to be those very useful pen pictures, and you know, you just say, well, this person used to be an ex-Scottish international or something. So it just gives you a, you know, set up for the match properly.
I will, obviously I was around at the time that we cancelled the programme, and having been a collector of them in my youth, and my dad's loft's probably still full of them, I never wanted to be the press officer that cancelled the programme. So although I was involved in the decision, it wasn't necessarily something I threw a load of support behind. There was a lot of thinking that went into it. I think the point you raised about wanting to know about the opposition, the thinking was that we had such state-of-the-art Wi-Fi that you could probably find that information out in 5 or 10 seconds. I know you're shaking your head because there is a difference to it, but that was part of the reasoning behind it at the time. You'll know that we had a big drive towards Wanderers TV and a lot of digital content, and we hired Phil to kind of lead on that. And there was kind of a school of thought that as a League One club we couldn't excel on both fronts in terms of having a designated programme that takes 3 or 4 days worth of labour to sell 500 copies, or have a team of 2 or 3 of us making digital content that reaches thousands of people on a regular basis and actually has a far bigger margin. So there are a lot of reasons behind it. I don't disagree with the points you're making. The decision was taken at the time to go that way, and it is something we can revisit. It's not something necessarily that's, you know, been discussed amongst us as a team since the change of ownership, but I think particularly if we were to reach the championship and crowds were to go up, and all of a sudden there's a bigger margin, a bigger profit to be made from programmes, then it's something we could certainly look at. There we go.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I do have a question, but first of all, I wanted to just give Jeremy and the team a pat on the back. I came to the 2 Youth Cup games, the one last night and the one a few weeks ago, and I have to say I'm really impressed with the quality of the football, the players, etc. But more than that, there's something about the way they played. It's kind of speaking to that thing you've talked about before, about who they are as human beings. There was something about the support, the way they handled themselves on the pitch. It was really encouraging. So they're clearly a nice bunch of lads, and actually, you know, looking forward to seeing some of those lads playing for the first team. And my question comes in that last night when we played, the scoreboard wasn't working. Nobody knew who the team were. People don't know the players. And as a follow-up to that, if you look at the website, although the results are on there, you don't say who the team were, and you don't say who scored the goals. And I think actually for those kids, and also for us, it'd be really nice to know who the team is that's being put out, who's scoring the goal, so we can get to know them a bit more. So my question is, why can we not get that stuff onto the website and get more said about how well that youth team is doing?
Yeah, I look at you here a bit as well, Matt. Firstly, thank you for your attendance at the games, and anyone else that came down as well. It does mean a lot to the boys. That it's hard to replicate what first team football looks like, and those nights are really important for their development, so thanks for that. And we were tremendously proud of how brave they were with the ball yesterday, even though they didn't quite get the result. It's really interesting, not to burst the bubble a little bit on how you've complimented that they are brilliant young people, and we really, really believe in them, but like I still don't think it's where it needs to be yet, and like our job is to try and make sure that these boys represent you and this football club, and we've got a long way to go yet, I think, still to make sure culturally they've got that and the heritage is understood. So we'll get there with that, but I'm pleased that you think it's a really encouraging start, and we do too, so that's great. Quite simply, you're right, like we're not where we want to be on the media. We've done a lot of stuff, and next week we'll undertake an audit, which is essentially the Premier League and the EFL, and we're working really, really hard to make sure every single process, even playing the FA Youth Cup game, is a new process for us as an organisation. So it takes time and effort for us to make sure that all the right safeguards, all the right risk assessments, all the right process of how we operate undertakes, and actually that's probably meant there's a trade-off somewhere, and some of that's come in the form of media. Our media push has been probably aimed, and rightly or wrongly, but we've engaged with some video content, and we're looking at some of the sort of social media platforms that younger people use, because we want to try and make sure that, again, to my point earlier, the narrative about Wycombe Wonder is understood by young people. So we had a video recently that you know, this won't mean, it didn't mean so much to me, but it was 500,000 views, and all the kids are talking about it. It was a collaboration with Rising Ballers. So those sort of things are actually working quite well for us. And the first time a player that's released from a really big club, like I alluded to earlier, the first thing they look on is those social media channels to understand what Wycombe Wanderers do. So actually, that's working reasonably well. What we know we're not doing well enough yet, that Matt and I talk about quite regularly, is what's to come, and it will come, is just how we report better on the day-to-day stuff of what the academy are doing, and keeping people informed about the progress of the players and who the players are and what we're doing, and we're not doing that yet. So it's just an omission really at the moment. Have I missed anything there, Matt?
No, I think I was going to add to that we had some discussions about it in the summer, and obviously Jeremy's employed staff and the academy have employed staff from all like walks of life in terms of the academy backgrounds, and one of the big things that I hadn't considered was the journey of the academy is different to that of the first team, in the sense that you'll judge the first team on results. You know, win 5, Michael's a genius. Lose 5, and he's a different word, right? And that's the life of a football fan. The academy's success isn't going to be measured on the results on the football pitch. Obviously, that's a big part of it, and it's a metric. But what Jeremy spoke earlier about the integration with the first team, the players coming through, that individual personal development that they're getting, speaks far bigger volumes than whether they beat Bristol Rovers on a Tuesday night or not. And I think also being really conscious that the players themselves are on social media these days, and the guys are doing an unbelievable job of probably just protecting them from that world that exists on social media, the world that we all know that exists, that you don't really want to expose your kids or young people within your care to, which is that reaction to results and detrimental moments in their careers. So we probably have kind of sheltered results. Now, actually, the results have been really good this season, but again, we can't just be that team that shouts about wins but then tries to bury our defeats. I think once we go at it, we'll have a really consistent approach. So there's a real thought process into just taking it one step at a time as a new academy, as to not going too big, too bold on shouting from the rooftops when we've won a game, but then reacting in any different way, or kind of worrying about what the world reacts to other results. So we are getting there. It's not laziness, it's not sloppiness. There is a thought process behind it. It's an evolution that will come, we'll bring you as much as we can. And I think ultimately the bigger thing is the storytelling of the academy, that the journey that it's been on is far bigger than individual results Saturday to Saturday.
If I can just quickly respond, I get all of that, and I think that's great, and I'm glad you're protecting the players, and obviously there's a lot of nonsense happens on social media we want to avoid. I'm just saying, let's put the team up, and who scored the goals. That's a start. You know, it gives a little bit of kind of connection for fans, and there's not going to be no slagging happening on the Wycombe site if people are actually just reading what's happening in the game. So let's keep it simple. But it's a step for us as fans to get to know some of these players and to know who's playing and who's scoring and so on. So that's all I was suggesting.
Yeah, good point. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a question on the back row, Deborah. Thank you.
Good evening. I was just wondering if there was going to be an opportunity this season of seeing our owner, Mikhail, at Adams Park for a match.
So, thank you for the message. For the question. I think I've said it a few times now on previous forums as well. At the right time. But as it stands right now, not in the immediate future.
But he's still really actively involved, I know.
Yeah. I mean, if there's a second part of that question, actively every day. So I've said it on previous forums. I've said it, outwardly as well. You know, Mikhail and I talk every day. Edward, myself, and Mikhail talk every day, every week. There's a comms piece that goes across to him. So he's fully versed on everything that's going on in the football club every day. Tim has updates with him regarding everything around the financial side and the business side. So, it goes on regularly. He's fully immersed in what we're doing here, and full credit to him. Everything you see day to day, everything that has been invested in this football club, yeah, he deserves huge credit.
Sorry, I just forgot to mention Mikel invested in the e-bars, which are hopefully you're all finding to help more drink easier and quicker. So not that we're trying to make you all alcoholics or anything like that, but it's just fantastic what Mikel's done for the club.
That sounds like a perfect opportunity to close up and everyone head to the bar. If there are no further questions, but we will take Alan in the middle. While the mic comes to Alan, I do just want to, on behalf of everyone at the football club, and I know it's something that Dan wanted to allude to, touch on the work of Alan and the volunteers. Dan, you want to speak?
Yeah, just, I alluded to it at the very beginning, but Alan and everyone that volunteers for football club, generally from everyone at the club, we thank you immensely. We know all the work you do. We recognise that, and we really hope that we can pay you back in some way. But yeah, no, thank you so much for everything you do for the football club.
Thank you for that. No, it's a pleasure. Being as Tim just touched on the e-bar side of life, for which I'm sure the fans are very appreciative of where they are. Were I to be sitting in the Origin stand, I'd be just as appreciative if we had a tea kiosk. The old one was taken away to extend the first aid room down that side by gate 10. So if you're right up at, say, somewhere around gate, block R and S in the stand, and you've got a cup of tea at half time, got to go all the way down, all the way around, come in here, get your cup of tea. Every other stand has got at least one kiosk, a couple of them got two. The Origin stand has got none. I don't know if there's any thoughts of building one, but there is room inside gate 10, I believe, and considering the amount of work that's gone on down here, which I know myself, I've seen the amount, and it's fantastic. For the sake of a couple of roofs and a wall, a couple of walls and a roof, you could build one. I'm sure they would appreciate it.
Thank you. And maybe, I'm sorry, Alan and I have conversations at about 7:30 in the morning. So maybe if we can get one morning together and you can show me and we'll work on a plan.
Yeah, go for it, yeah.
So that it picks up on
Thank you. We did experiment with, this is going back to the half-time refreshments, we did experiment with the concept of an app a couple of years back, and it seems to make a lot of sense to me. If you're sat at your seat and you order your food in advance, or what you want at half-time in advance, it gives the people behind the kiosk time to get a load of the work out of the way early before that insane queue comes. Why do we not look at this? It just seems like a win. You get the money early, it's online, makes life easier for everybody, avoids queues. I'm struggling to see a downside.
Now you say it, I actually hadn't thought of that personally, but I think it's a really good idea, so we'll look into it.
Okay, and the apps exist for it as well. You don't have to write anything.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any more? If not, we will call that a wrap, and we'll say see you on Saturday. We're Lincoln City, obviously, here on Saturday. As Tim alluded to, please do come down to the Winter Market if you can on the 30th of November. And if I can tempt any of you to run, jog or walk, there is a 5k or 2.5k route. Santa hats are optional. Full Santa regale is actually preferred. But yeah, do come along Saturday. Thank you very much. If there's anything we haven't picked up on, you can email it through. We'll try and get back to you. Thank you to everyone who's been listening at home. And if I can give a round of applause for our panel of Dan, Michael, Jeremy, Tim and Tom, and we'll see you on Saturday. Thank you.